Hello and good morning. Welcome to today's webinar on future purpose. We'll get started in just a few seconds. Thank you very much for joining me. This webinar today is for senior marketing heads and your teams, and for those responsible for marketing strategy, campaign rollout, and lead gen generally. Now, the webinar is going to run for about 60 minutes today. We'll have time for questions at the end. I'll be talking for about 45 minutes, and a recording will be made available. So this webinar is perfect for those that are both new to ABM, but also those that are looking to design and roll out a standardized ABM program, a strategy that they can then hand over to marketing teams across single or multiple geographical targets and markets. So, as I said, the timings for today, about 45 minutes for the presentation, then time for some questions. There's a recording available. My name is Joe Birkdale. I'm the founder and CEO of Project36, and I'll be walking you through Future Purpose. It is our flagship solution, and it's designed to help you combine inbound, outbound, and ABM in a single but unified campaign. That most importantly, that you can then scale up into any territory or any vertical or any market you operate in. So in the interest of disclosure, obviously we're going to talk about what we do and our solution and help you build out an ABM campaign that you can scale. And we're going to give you that insight right now. That process that we call is Future Purpose, and it does encompass inbound, outbound, and ABM. But you are free to trial and any aspect that we talk about today for yourselves and without further engagement for us. Obviously, we'd be delighted if you wanted to work with us, but the principles that I'm going to talk to you about today will still apply if you do this yourselves. So in summary, this webinar is for those that not only need ABM, but for those that need ABM to scale up. So today's agenda and objectives, we're going to be looking specifically at data, strategy, and scale. Now, you've all heard about the performance of ABM and how wonderful it is. And in fact, 80% of senior marketers rate ABM as the greatest sort of single performing aspect of their marketing output. But it's the ability to scale that remains their biggest challenge. So on our objectives and our agenda today, we're going to be looking at some data. We're going to be helping you identify a solution for data prospecting, cleansing, compliance, and in order to drive all of your campaign outreach. And data really is one of the most often overlooked aspects of ABM as a campaign strategy. Then we're going to move on to the strategy itself and basically help you assemble a step-by-step or a key stages model, KSM as we call it, for your campaign pilot. And then finally, the scale. How do you amplify this? How do you roll it out? So we're going to be building the playbook, talking about the case study assets that will enable that rollout. We talk about global rollout here, but it could be a product or service rollout within the same country, for example, the UK or Germany. Or it could be literally a global rollout. The principles will apply regardless. So as we do this, it's going to be worth taking just a moment to look at the state of ABM. Who's doing what, and you'll be able to plot yourself on this. So this chart's looking at the maturity of ABM as a practice, as a marketing practice, and it was compiled by Pardo, marketing automation platform, late last year, and it's based on a lot of research by Engagio across just over 1,200 companies around the world. Now, there's a number of important insights and important bits of data here, but most importantly, 65% of the sample have got ABM programs in place, with a further 24% that are thinking about getting started, which is great news. It's fantastic for the industry. And these companies, these have got a head start on their competition. But the results here also demonstrate that when they ask the companies, how would you describe your company's maturity with ABM? Less than 5% responded that they are delivering advanced ABM campaigns. They are campaigns that can scale. But why is it so tough to scale up an ABM campaign in the first place? Why is it such an issue? Why are we holding a webinar about it? Well, firstly, what works in one market or sector or territory doesn't universally apply to another. Secondly, most ABM programs originate as a pilot to test a service or market or product or territory and to test a strategy. And again, this is good practice. This is good best practice. you'll get a Halo campaign that you can then put in play. And if you manage it well, if you use your assets and you understand ABM properly and deliver that campaign, you will deliver and probably see the headline ABM performance results that are expected and often lauded about in the industry. However, in doing so, the tail can begin to wag the dog. And by that, I mean the model that you choose, or the pilot, is usually very, very tailored, and it's specific to the unique parameters of that pilot so that it works, which makes complete sense. It ticks a box. But it's also very likely to be ultra sensitive to the increases of that pilot. Yet it's exactly that, because the pilot is very, very, very focused on its strategic delivery for the specifics of a pilot, that it has failed to plan for the oncoming wider application with variables that it can't adapt to later at rollout stage. So whilst most people, most marketing teams are able to build an individual ABM campaign that they can rate as high performance, the role as a model for rollout and to add scale typically falls woefully short. So meaning that when the campaign is handed to other teams, that they can't replace it, that they can't replicate it. Because if the strategy doesn't have an eye on the horizon, if it doesn't know what's coming next, and if it's not able to work with some variables, then it's not going to work when it's picked up and replicated anywhere else in the business. And I'm afraid that's the fault of the senior marketeers that wrote the ABM pilot program, and not the localized marketing teams that are tasked with delivering the model at rollout. So you really do need to make sure that you start with that aim, that even if your goal right now is for selling more widgets in Scandinavia, if you don't plan for the bigger picture right now, your project, your pilot may well go on to work for Scandinavia, and you'll get all the back patting and praise and probably the budget for the wider rollout, but you will definitely set yourself up to fail. So what is the solution to that? Well, we believe, obviously, it's future purpose. It's a scalable, standardized marketing process that lets you win new business, potentially globally. But to give you some more context and to help you do this for yourselves, we're going to strip away all the complexity of ABM, and we're going to focus on three main areas, which are data, strategy, and scale. And we're going to cover off each of those in just a second. So if we bring it back to basics, if we focus on what really, really matters, then actually ABM is really simple. It's old as the hills. Key account marketing, key sales, it's gone full circle. It's really only data that's and technology that's brought it back to the fore. But if we focus on what really matters, then effectively all we need to do is blend data, which is the who, the what, the where of what and whatever we want to sell, with strategy, which is our plan for what we're going to give our prospects, what we're going to give them, when, at what stage. And finally, we need to then wrap that up into a program that can be repeated again and again to give us the scale. So first up, let's look at data. So our objective here, and the reason for bringing this slide in, is that we want to help you identify a solution for data prospecting, cleansing, and compliance in order that you can be able to boost your campaigns, give your campaign some outreach. The problem is with data that low lead quality often originates. So we all know how one of the most challenging issues that a sales team will get is that the frustration of spending really valuable time, precious time working on a lead, in inverted commas, that turns out to be completely unqualified. And it all comes down to the data. Too often, the information that the sales team are working on is incomplete or it's out of date, and it kills confidence and it impacts on the revenue of the campaign. So before you start any campaign, you really do need to understand everything you can about your target audience, who they are, where they are, how many of them there are, and we need to be able to trust that data. So we call that search, that data, we call that your universe, and I'm going to help you find yours now. So as I said, data is your universe. It's made up of everyone that can buy your product or service. It includes the named accounts, the markets, the verticals, all the territories you operate or want to operate in. And your universe should really, you should be able to go in and map the decision-making units, or the DMU, within those accounts, which is the group of people named and profile individuals with influence in buying decisions. Because on average, we know that just over 5 people now have sign-off or influence on each B2B purchase. So understanding that DMU is critical. And the other thing to mention is that your universe must be, and always is, unique to you, your company, and the service or the products you want to promote. And so it changes. So you need to be able to identify it, first of all, profile it, and then effectively you need to bottle it. And that's what we're trying to get across here in this image. Is you need to bottle your universe. It needs to be unique to you. And your data is very definitely alive. And so it needs to be updated in real time so that it remains reliable and trusted. And of course, if you're in the UK or you want to sell into the UK, then you need GDPR compliant data, and that's critical. So as I've already mentioned, as this webinar is intended, we're going to talk about scale. Everything we do is talking about scale, and your source of data is pivotal to that. Now, there are lots and lots of different ways to skin a cat. You will have data as an organization, whether that's in a single environment like a CRM, or whether it's on spreadsheets, or whether salespeople have some and marketeers have others. You've got data. But what typically happens with data is the second it's added to your CRM, or the second it's recorded, it becomes out of date. Job titles change, people move on, and it's static information. So having data that's live and updated and constantly refreshed is really useful. So to do that, to help us in our own ABM campaigns, but also to help our clients, we are an official agents partner with Cognizant. There are other partners out there, there are other providers, but we just believe Cognizant to be the #1 solution when it comes to B2B sales and marketing. And you're very well encouraged to go and check them out. You can go directly to them and you can buy their solution, or you can come via us and do the same. But when you get access to data like this, which is enriched, it's GDPR compliant first and foremost, and it lets you draw down leads from any industry you can think of, what you'll end up with is a data set, which is fantastic. That's only going to get you so far, because of course, once you've got the data, you then need to enrich it with insight. So what we do when clients come to Project 36 and we run through Future Purpose ABM campaign with them, not only are we building their universe and enriching the data that they already have and finding net new prospects for them and building that decision-making unit, we're doing so on a live database that uses AI and to update itself and keep itself afresh. There's over 400 million people in here. We've got over 12 billion data points that we can search against. We then go on and perform both a macro and a micro audits that we can zoom in on specific accounts that should make up that campaign. So they may well pick, I want to work with Nike and Adidas and Apple, but actually are those accounts suitable for them? By drilling into it, we stop wasting time. We find out the real people, the buying decision-making units, and we create a proper target list. And these are the things that you should be looking to do yourselves. So at a macro level, we help uncover the specific accounts and the company insights that are then going to help us build these shortlists. Who are we going to be targeting? So to get a top level view of those accounts and who we should be focused on next, we then look for buying triggers, and we look at their tech stack to give us context and timing for our outreach for our campaign. And by buying triggers, we look for information that's going to help prioritize and enrich a prospects list. So to find hot prospects, we'll search against more than 20 buying triggers so that we can identify when is the best time to approach and what the sales message should be. So we would look for location moves, relocating headquarters, etc., job moves, job starts, job ends actually is important. Company funding is critical, company acquisitions, IPO. If there's been a funding round coming on, they're in the seed or the growth stage. For us, marketing is going to be very, very high on their agenda, as is recruitment, because they need to scale up and grow quite quickly. So that's a good time to reach out. as are event appearances and their hiring statuses and so on. So buying triggers really do give you insights to when to talk to them, but also what to talk to them about. In addition, we use tech stack research. So I think most of the guys on today's webinar and from across Europe and North America today, I think probably 95% are on HubSpot and are using it to different extent. And we were able to invite you guys based on the fact that you use HubSpot and that you're probably already along the lines of inbound marketing and down that road and either scaling up or starting off on your ABM journey. So looking at tech stack really helps give you insights to what you can talk about. So perhaps you're a HubSpot integration partner. You've got a plugin that works with HubSpot. No problem. Let's identify prospects from anywhere in the world that use HubSpot, drill into the key decision makers within that, and craft a message and craft a campaign that gets in front of them. Got a solution for SAP? No problem. Find those. And there's 700 different technology solutions out there that we can search against and find. So the real key thing here is when you're looking at your data set, give yourself some buying triggers and some insight that you can then act on. Now, at a micro level, you also need to be auditing. You need to be looking and getting yourselves phone numbers, postal locations, and building that decision-making unit. So what we do as an agency for ourselves, but also for our clients, is we build groups of people with direct influence on that purchasing decision. We understand their pain points and even the workplace politics that are driving those decisions. Because as I said, over 5 people are now involved or influence a purchase. And the more expensive or the more complex or the longer the term of your solution or your product, the bigger that buying decision, but also the longer the buying cycle is likely to be. So we get right down to the contact information, including phone numbers, postal locations, job roles, title, much more, including, obviously, very importantly, direct contact email address. And that data then can really empower and fuel your campaign. So key takeaway number 1, build. Build your universe. The universe is unique to you, your company, and the service or the products you want to promote at that one time. So you need to be able to identify, profile, and bottle your universe, whether it's your existing data, whether you're buying lists in, so make sure they're compliant if you're using a partner such as Cognizant. Your data is alive, and so it needs to be updated as often as real time as possible so that it remains reliable and trusted. And of course, it's got to be GDPR compliant. So ultimately, whatever data source you have, whatever you use, whether it's existing data, known data, or assembled data perhaps from inbound leads, it needs to be actionable. So you need to be able to interrogate and draw insight and action from it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to strategy, which is our second element of a future purpose campaign. And this really is where we get into the nuts and bolts of how we deliver our future purpose campaigns, why they're so successful, why we get 100% account penetration, why we get 70% individual account penetration, why we get mass sign up, why we get retained by our clients over and over and over again, and why this rolls out in different markets. We're going to go through now. So as I mentioned earlier, if the strategy doesn't have an eye on the horizon at the point in which it's conceived, if it does not know what's coming next, if it's not able to work with variables, then it just won't work when it's picked up and replicated elsewhere in a business. And that's because the senior marketing leaders that build and write the pilot, they're usually the most senior people, marketing people within the organization. They have got years and years of experience, probably got ABM experience, got data experience, understand the intricacies of the market or the product or the solution they're trying to sell. And on a senior, they build and tailor and customize that ABM pilot. It works. It rolls. It's fantastic. But when it comes to rollout, the localized teams, who are quite often junior people or in a market with far greater variables or differences, they get given a set of instructions of go and do this, and it fails. So we're now going to share with you a unified strategy that you can now adopt and make your own. So you'll have seen both of these funnels, hopefully, and the marketing funnel on the left, and to quote HubSpot, we should be seeking to attract, convert, close, and delight. We should be using HubSpot or inbound marketing to take people from unaware to aware, from purchase intent to brand advocates. And the funnel on the left, it needs to attract a lot of prospects, usually thousands, to churn out tens, but sometimes hundreds of ideal accounts or marketing qualified leads, MQLs, at the bottom. And then we pass those leads to sales, and we kind of hope for the best. Now, we all know about marketing and sales alignment, how important it is. It's really important for inbound, and it's really important for ABM. We get that. I'm not going to preach that to you now. And inbound still very much has its place, but well, for example, we're a HubSpot partner agency, so don't get me wrong, we are big believers in the power of inbound, but it is competing for marketing dollars, and ABM is, frankly, better. So on the right, we flip the funnel. We've now got account-based marketing, and let's pilot this. So let's start off with a small number of live accounts. 10 is common, with a DMU or influential people within that account of 3 to 5 people per account. That's going to give a workload of 10 target accounts and say 30 to 50 named individuals in the decision-making units within each account. That will give you a good pilot program, a good size. Now you need to give it at least 6 months to go and run, ideally 9 to 12, but 6 months is a minimum, whilst you continually adjust and tweak that as you go. So most of you, I hope, are very comfortable with inbound, and some of you will be comfortable with ABM, and a few of you might run both. But are they aligned? And do you have the ability to include outbound in the mix? And it was at this point a few years ago that we asked ourselves, when we're running inbound campaigns for clients and we're running separate ABM campaigns for clients, and we've got, almost double budgets, we've got double workloads, why should ABM work in isolation of other campaigns like inbound? Why should it only focus on key accounts? Why can't inbound help us identify our future targets and assist with lead flow? Why can't ABM serve up higher volume opportunities for inbound to nurture? Why can't outbound be used to drive and enrich both? And it was this that Future Purpose was born. So we've already stated that the 3 main elements of Future Purpose are data, strategy, and scale. And we've also said that Future Purpose it gives you the opportunity of unifying inbound, ABM, and outbound into a single marketing program. But how do you do that? Well, you see, Future Purpose is a methodology. It's a process. It's something that you can follow that is built on the blend above. It helps you scale. It's depending on the product, service, or sector, or the vertical, or the territory you sell into. The blend can be adjusted. Your focus and emphasis can move based on the variables you face, meaning your Future Purpose marketing machine can generate valuable opportunity anywhere. So here on the slide, you've still got data, strategy, and scale overlaid in the Venn diagram, but you've got ABM, outbound, and inbound in there. And the way these circles sit over each other, you can adjust. So you could bring more emphasis on data, you could bring more emphasis into strategy, you could bring more emphasis into scale. Whatever's most important for you is the overlapping elements that you need to run. And Future Purpose is obviously the amalgamation of all of those. So here's how we do it. Here's the physical 6-step pipeline and process and how you run an inbound, outbound, and ABM unified campaign. And also, most importantly, the campaign hook. And it's this bit that I really want you guys to get. This is the ultimate part of Future Purpose. So the 6 stages of Future Purpose, or how to deliver Future Purpose in practice, starting off on the left on step 1. Obviously, we need to discover and define your high value accounts and identify that DMU. And we've gone through that in the data side of how we build that model out, of who you need to be talking to them. But secondly, we get into the ABM part of the project, and straight away, the campaign hook here is that we're going to tell your high value accounts, your DMU, that we recognise their experience and their expertise as a world leader in their field. So we're going to flatter them. Then we're going to ask them to join you, your organisation, at an event where you're going to put them on a panel to discuss the future state of your industry or product or sector as they see it from their own perception, but also from their company. This does two things. It positions them as the expert and you're recognising them. It then gives them a platform in which to promote their own company, but also themselves. So that flattery goes on to really get their engagement with you. Then we're going to move on to step 4, where we're going to promote the event via blogs and CTAs on your website and effectively invite the wider industry to attend the webinars. This is going to give you a lead flow. This is your inbound. So steps 1 is your data. Steps 2 and 3 are using ABM, so reaching out to your target audiences. We're flattering, we're inviting them, we're picking them as world leaders to come and discuss and champion the future of your industry or your service, your sector, or your product. Step 4, we're promoting that via inbound and generating new leads that you can then nurture in your inbound programs. Step 5, we're going to be using your automated email, your outbound, your databases, your advertising to promote the event to the broader industry and generate more sign-up, more engagement for the event itself. And obviously step 6, measure, learn, optimize, and repeat from step 1. So the beauty of future purpose that I hope you've spotted here is that by recognizing your prospects' expertise, you're flattering them and not selling to them. This completely removes all barriers and generates engagement. Just think about it. A supplier to you reaches out and says, Mary, we recognize your expertise in this industry. We would be honored if you would come along to our event and talk about what you've done, what you've seen, what's the future of our industry or our sector. And when you invite them to that event, which can be offline or online, you have ample opportunity to nurture your relationship with them, to gain insight and to position your suitability as a solution as a passive sales process. You're looking obviously to become their next vendor or the partner or provider, but you're doing so from a position of recognition. If they can't or won't attend, you've still got open dialogue. So future purpose helps you build on that too. And of course, you're promoting the event via your inbound activities, you're driving awareness of the event as attendees, and you're creating the audience. And ultimately, those inbound leads can then be nurtured through existing inbound campaigns within future purpose to MQL to give you more leads. So you've then promoted your industry via outbound and you've gained ambient brand exposure as well. So you've got 3 primary things. Although this is primarily an ABM campaign, you've approached your target audience, your decision-making unit, the target accounts. You've got engagement from them. You've generated inbound leads from people wanting to hear what those high-value, experienced professionals have got to offer, as those world leaders have got to offer. And thirdly, you've created ambient brand exposure and brand awareness for your company or your product or your solution via your outbound activities, all wrapped up in one nice, tidy campaign. So when you follow the future purpose methodology, when you do the steps that we've just talked about, the intricacies of your market, the product, the service, or the territory are completely irrelevant, meaning you can scale up because you've got a single goal, a strategy that hangs off a single goal, a single offering, which is recognizing the expertise of your target. You're not talking about your product, you're not talking about your solution, you're talking about the recognition. That will work in Germany as it will in New York, as it will in Asia. You recognize the expertise of the person you want to work with, and that will give you the flexibility to scale up in any market. And you can pick that principle of the strategy and drop it anywhere in the world. So this is a genuine example of a key stages model, and it's utilized for one of our clients in North America. It's effectively a blueprint, and it explains all the necessary steps involved in producing a future purpose ABM campaign. It's going to allow the reader from non-US territories, so we're talking about the rollout now, who have not been involved in the original pilot, to pick up the principles of the campaign and replicate it in their market. As remember, the consistent theme here is they're going to reach out to their target audience and recognize their authority and their experience and invite them to an event of their choosing. And it's going to basically help them eliminate the intricacies of that territory. Yet, because it's still a future purpose strategy, the DMU is still positioned as the expert. Now, it's worth noting that the key stages model also follows our proprietary BPAR methodology, which BPAR standing for build, position, attract, and retain, which gives further structure to the stages involved. Most of our audience, most of our clients' internal teams are savvy with inbound marketing. And so this BPAR methodology helps further the uptake and rollout of the campaign, because it's not too dissimilar from what they'll have learned from HubSpot or Pardo. So in addition, for every future purpose playbook we produce for our clients, the key stages model shown here, which I should add, by the way, is always unique to each client. So whilst this is on screen for you to look at, it wouldn't necessarily work for you. It needs to be tailored to you and the intricacies of your pilot program. It is accompanied by a detailed breakdown of each stage, which makes the replication of the campaign even more straightforward. And that looks a little something like this. So note everything's still color-coded and it's numbered and in the same order as the primary blueprint. If I quickly show you that again. So you've got the various colors and the various headers: build, position, track, retain. They're replicated again. And each of the stages is numbered. So B1 for build, establish your target plan. What are you looking to achieve, and so on. So it's a step-by-step. This is how you build out the campaign. Now, some of you have noticed for this client, we use the term World Leadership Series, or WLS, instead of Future Purpose. That was unique to that particular client, but the methodology, process, and concept is absolutely identical. And you need to be building something similar. So key takeaway number 2, position. You've got to position your strategy. The intricacies of your market, your product, your service, or territory can be made completely irrelevant and give you the ability to have one campaign strategy that you can roll out anywhere with any product if you focus on the expertise of the people in your target account. Focus on that, and the future of your industry as a theme, and your campaign won't go far wrong. So, on to the final element. How do we scale this out? Well, obviously, you can use the model I've just shown you. The key stages model is going to go a long way to do that, but you need to wrap that up in a bit of a playbook, which is a term we use for basically instruction manual. So we know that there's the sales and marketing alignment is critical for ABM's success, but to scale up, you need to go beyond that. So as we've gone through, you know that we need to make sure the data is solid, up to date, and reliable, so you can trust it and act on it, but also that you can access the same type of data globally. So rather than using lots of different data sources, use one, a solid one, and I can't recommend Cognizant highly enough. Number 2, you need to ensure your strategy can play out at a micro and a macro level, yet still be broad enough in principle that local variables like market or even product or territory can be easily adapted to. And finally, you've got to ensure that account retention and cross-sell are part of your strategy. It's a lot cheaper to sell into an existing account than it is to sell to a new account. And retention is a massive part to play in creating scale. It's not just about net new business. 85% of marketers said that ABM massively improves the benefits to retain and expand existing client relationships and increasing customer retention. But most importantly of all, you've got to make sure your teams can follow the lead you've set. So as the senior leaders, as the marketing experts, and the most senior people in your organization, the playbook really does give you the ability to roll out without you being there. And so it'll detail what you did, what you learned, how you did it, the results that you generated. And the most important element of the playbook is undoubtedly the key stages model that you've just seen. But I can give you some screenshots as to what our playbooks look like. So they basically should assume that the reader has limited knowledge of ABM. So you want to provide statistics on ABM and how good it is, how good it was for you, what it is, what it isn't. how it incorporates into your organization, why you're using ABM. Give context, assume the audience doesn't know, inform, empower, and engage them. The pilot program must also give the results and objectives of what you were trying to achieve. The key performance indicators. What does success look like? If they're running a pilot in Germany that was already successfully running in America, then if you've got a sales cycle that's say 9 months long, but the pilot's only for 6 months long, clearly you're not going to have any new business. So you might say, the campaign isn't working because it's only delivered these leads or this engagement, but we haven't actually closed any deals. That's fine, but what are the key performance indicators along that 6 months? What would you expect to have happened by 6 months? What can you achieve by 6 months? Can you shorten that lead cycle? So our objectives are really important. How many target accounts are we working for or to? What is the size of our DMU? What's the account penetration target? What do we want? What are our objectives? So on the example here, for this one for Lloyd's Register, they was focused on 10 accounts. They'd got a DMU of 72 different people within those accounts, and we set a target of reaching 70% of them. So we then, go on and explain, what the key stages model is. We've obviously shown you that already, but it's a repeatable model. They should pick it up and replicate it around the intricacies of their market using the angle of, we recognize you, sir, madam, as an expert. We would like you to join us in talking about the future of our industry. And it really should go on to demonstrate why it exists. It needs to explain how it was done, how it can be repeated. So this case study here from provided by Lloyd's, one of the metrics was company engagement of 70%. Well, we hit 100%. The individual engagement target was to reach 25% of those DMU and get them engaged, get them talking to us. We managed 44% individual engagement. When you looked at whether there's single people within an organization, that shot up to 70%. The campaign reached 26,000 people. We had on the first webinar event that we ran, we hit just over 2,300 views. We had nearly 900 registrations. We aimed for 300. We had 361 live attendees. That went on to be over 700 that watched that on demand. The inbound lead flow gave us a further just under 900 leads to then nurture to talk about both the World Leadership Series, or as they called it, or the products that Lloyd's sells. So it's just a massive, massive campaign success that enables Lloyd's to roll this out globally in different markets, different territories around the world. So key takeaway 3 is that you've got to model that program and then provide the detailed step-by-step instruction on how you can then scale up anywhere and really get an idea of what it is that your DMU is looking to achieve, what is their pains in their life, model that program, get the data source, get it consistent, build out the step-by-step instructions, and then you can scale up anywhere. So to summarize for you, Future Purpose is a methodology and a process of enabling you to build a full-scale ABM campaign that also unifies inbound, outbound, and ABM into a single manageable program. Our Future Purpose programs are in operation all over Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and North America. And if you want to build out a solid ABM campaign, really do look at focusing on data, on strategy, and then scale. Put it all down in a well-planned, easy-to-follow playbook, and you won't go far wrong. So we're coming up on 40 minutes of bang on schedule. I've got a couple of questions coming in terms of a few here that have raised a question about how long should a pilot program last. We would always say it depends entirely on the timescales that it takes for your product to normally close. If you've got a 12 months lead cycle from initial engagement through to signing of purchase order, then if you run a 3-month campaign pilot, you are not going to get new business. You may have some traction and early engagement, but you won't have new business. So you need to be sensitive to the natural life cycle stages of your sales funnel, how long it traditionally takes, and be sensitive to that. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to run a pilot for 12 months, because if you set the right KPIs along the way, then you will have metrics that you can perform against. So if you've got a target account of 10 accounts and a DMU of 50 people, if you've reached by 6 months half of those people, if you've engaged with half of them, they're having two-way conversation with you. If you've penetrated 25% or 50% of those accounts, and you set that as a KPI, then at the 6 month point, you can see the general trend that this is going in the right direction. And if followed through to conclusion is likely to close and achieve its objectives, then you've got a fair period of time to make a judgment and assessment. You've also got to make sure your teams can deliver on this. If you're running an ABM campaign internally, you're going to be learning as you're going, and you need to consistently tweak and adjust. And if you want to look at how to run an ABM campaign, have a look at some of our previous webinars, which are recorded and available on our website. They'll go through that in more detail, but you've got to, if you're taking this in-house, you've got to learn as you go. So it can be time consuming. You can actually extend your sales cycles if you're not careful. If you wanted to partner with an agency to run your ABM campaigns, obviously they can fast track for you and do all the heavy lifting. And one of the questions that's coming in here is what level of involvement do you need from the client, i.e. you guys listening? What level of engagement do you need from you to work with us as an agency? Well, it's a good question. There's no such thing as a set and forget. You don't just give us a purchase order and then walk off into the sunset. No one knows your product or your service or your market as well as you. So at the point of engagement, we will really need to do a period of discovery where we're going to be quizzing the people that are at the front line of your sales and your organization. We're going to be looking at what the natural blockers are for your campaigns, what they can and can't do, what the perceptions are, what it's like on the front line. After that, we're going to be talking to your marketing teams and your content and looking at your content and doing an audit of what it is that your content is, what it isn't, and the messages that are going out of that. And basically, we do a period of discovery so that there's a fair level of investment in time from your side for the first 4 to 6 weeks. After that, it lightens off. And depending on the role of the scope and engagement that you have with your agency, if you're running a future purpose program, incidentally, we will also run standard ABM one-to-one, one-to-few, and one-to-many campaigns. Future purpose is just something that we've evolved and developed through request because people want to unify inbound, outbound, and ABM. So it really depends on the scope that we have with the client. We do offer turnkey, where we do everything from content creation, production, all within brand guidelines and tone of voice, obviously. That's obviously more time intensive for us and less for you. You're just purely a sign-off. Others, it's much more collaborative. And usually in the pilot phase, at least, it's, I'd say, 85% us, 15% client. And then that tends to settle down over time where it's much more us. But no, good question. Scrolling through these questions now. I'm happy to say we've got a really good turnout today. We've got people from all over Europe, some early risers in America, which is great to see. I know we had a lot of registrations from North America, so I'm expecting a lot of people on demand on that. We've had a really good turnout today. So questions just come in. How big should an ABM team be internally? It's a little bit like how long is a piece of string. The size of your team really depends on the size of your opportunity and how many accounts you want to target. So I guess your marketing team is already busy, already doing the activities that they're employed to do. So dropping an ABM campaign onto them is going to burden them significantly if they're doing it themselves. But you're going to looking to have, and you may already have this in your organization, but you're going to need to be looking for a strategist. You're going to need to be having somebody for the outreach, so the salesperson or people. You're going to need the content. You're going to need the design. You need the automation. So you're into, potentially double digits already. So I would say between 5 and 10 as a marketing team, as a minimum. And again, that's why a lot of people plug in an agency, because they just don't have the internal capacity to run an ABM campaign. Certainly not if it's a pilot, if they're saying, does this work for us? And that's why Future Purpose exists, really, is because our clients tend to be larger enterprises or tech startups. They've got capability, but they don't have the resource right now. But if it's proven, they'll find that resource. So that's why the playbook exists, is that we can hand this back and go, there you go, run it yourselves. And we're okay with that. We're fine, because 9 times out of 10, they still haven't got the time, but now they know it works. So the project comes back to us. Okay, so I hope that answers your question on that. Can ABM work in any market? Yes, we've not seen any reason why it can't. ABM, it's got to be fit for purpose, don't forget. So ABM is not a great solution if you sell widgets at £1 a time or $1 a time, because it's time intensive. ABM is really designed for complex sales where you've got a human interaction. It's something that needs to be tailored, customized, configured. Meetings need to be held, conversations need to be had. It's not something you can just buy online. For that, you'll be looking at inbound marketing, or outbound, or pay-per-click, and so on. So it's about using the right tool at the right time. But with ABM, you need a fairly complex sales cycle. You need multiple stakeholder involvement for it to really start to pay its dues. So the beauty about ABM is that it does have one of the highest return on investments of any marketing strategy that you can run, regardless of what it is you sell. However, the product that you sell needs to have significant cost to it. So if you're selling consultancy services at £60,000 a year, then the time, effort, and the months of effort to go and get a client for £60,000 a year is obviously worthwhile. If that client's going to give you £600 and you're only targeting 10 people at a time, it's just not going to pay for itself. It's quite as simple as that. Which brings me on to another question that somebody just popped up. This all sounds wonderful. How much is it? We don't have budgets at the moment, but we'd like to factor this in. What do we need to do to use an agency, and what budget do we need to set? Okay, so to do that, we need to talk to us. I'll happily reach out to you, Alistair. Thank you very much for that. But to answer your question, it's all a matter of time. As a professional services organisation ourselves, we sell on units of time. So basically, if a client wants 48 hours from us every month to run an ABM campaign for them, if that's how long it needs, because of the scope of the campaign and what they're going to do and what we're going to do, then it's very simple to put a cost to that, because we know what our activities are and our times to deliver based on the scope and the statement of works, but also the experience on running these programs. We can very quickly and accurately put together a cost projection with everything in scope and out of scope. The client can then sign off on that. So in terms of cost, if you're looking at, say, a small to moderate pilot, maybe 10 accounts, and let's say 30 to 50 people, I'd estimate looking in the region of about £5,000 per month. That then rolls out for a minimum of 6 months. So you're up to around the £30,000 mark, something like that, for a 6-month pilot. Now, run it for longer, obviously you're just doubling that cost. But you're then getting to the point where you'll have closed business. Most sales cycles are 6 to 9 months, some a little bit longer. So you'll have closed out that business and you'll be able to see the net new value of that business. ABM also helps you bring longer lifetime value. So traditionally, you may have a lifetime value of, say, 2 years or 2.5 years. With ABM, because you can keep retaining clients, you keep communicating and going back to clients that you already have, you can extend that life cycle. So you can make that 3 or 3.5 years perhaps, but you can also upsell to them and cross-sell to them at the same time. So the dollar value of each new account wins amplifies and goes up. And that's why most people cite the huge revenue return that ABM can deliver. These headline stats that you'll see come in years 2 onwards, because the campaign has been able to not only win new accounts, but also land and expand, cross-sell into those accounts and boost the revenue and the dollar value from each piece of new business. So it isn't a linear return on investment. It tends to spike and to keep growing over time. Okay, so let's have a look. We'll have one or two last questions. Where do we run ABM campaigns? Good question. Well, Project 36 is global. So we're headquartered in Birmingham in the United Kingdom, but we've got offices and creative hubs all over the world from 6 different locations at the moment. So we assemble the teams and expertise that you need in the locations that you need. There's over 160, we're a team of over 160 people at Project 36, and we're in the markets and areas that you need us. So we run clients' ABM campaigns across Europe, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, North Africa, North America, and over into Asia and Pacific. So globally, in fact, I think the only place we're not working at the moment is South America, Antarctica, and Russia. But yes, most of our clients are global, traditionally English speaking, or headquartered in the US or the UK, but they've got operations globally. And our campaigns tend to be to a local market initially and then roll out onto a global scale, hence the need and necessity for future purpose. I've got another question that's come in. What makes, sorry, just trying to read that, let's talk about that. What makes a really good event for future purpose? Okay, so that's a good question. It can be anything. It could be a roundtable, it could be a webinar, it could be a trade show. Anywhere that you can put and position your target audience as a thought leader, anywhere you can demonstrate their experience and give them the opportunity and the platform to talk about the future of your industry. And of course, by talking about the future of your industry, you're taking ownership of it. You're becoming the expert, the go-to organization, because you're helping set the scene. You're helping identify what the future looks like. So you become a leader in that, or you become perceived as a leader in that. So you get the brand value, of course, as we talked about, from the audience seeing that. You get your inbound lead flow from people wanting to hear about what people are talking about, whether they attend online or whether they attend physically at a trade show or an event that you're hosting or a roundtable. And of course, your target, your prospect, they're spending time with you both on stage, in inverted commas, or in the preparation for that, because you'd want to see questions to them. You'd want to let them prepare their answers to questions that you're going to give to them. That involves conversation, that involves discussion, that it lets you get insight, and your salespeople can really start to nurture that relationship. So any event will work. Obviously, live is better, and the bigger the audience, the bigger the flattery. But go out and try it. If you're not sure how to do it yourselves, by of course, come back and talk to me. We'd be delighted to talk to you about ABM and in particular future purpose. Yeah, I'm Joe Birkdale. I'm the founder and CEO at Project 36. I've really enjoyed today's webinar, and I hope you found it informative and helpful, and it help you go on and build your own high performance ABM campaigns. So, of course, if you've got any questions, please do use the details on screen and reach out to me directly. A recording of the webinar will be made available shortly, so you can share that or watch it again. And just want to say thank you sincerely for joining me, and I hope that we'll be able to speak again soon. Many thanks.